What is going on, guys? It is CH from Hangover Forever. We are talking about everything in this video. Converting a keg into a fermenter, fermenting under pressure, understanding what a spunding valve is, how to use a spunding valve, how to build our own spunding valve, but most importantly, how to save a ton of money. There's a ton of expensive stuff on the homebrew market right now, which gives me ideas for Homebrew for Life videos. So thank you, expensive stuff. And there's a lot of ways to do what we're gonna do today, but this is the way we're gonna do it. That's just what we're doing. We're gonna kill a lot of birds today with just one stone. Fermenting under pressure is great for many reasons, like maintaining hop aroma and being able to ferment certain lager strains at room temperature. But the main reason is to minimize oxygen, just like commercial breweries. I don't need to transfer under pressure since I drink 5 gallons of beer every single day, and I don't make too many lagers, but this is a great way to prolong the shelf life of your homebrew, especially in regards to shipping beer or entering a competition. So let's get into it. Now sit back, crack a beer, take off your shirt, put on some sweatpants, and let's get brutal. But first, let's talk about the old school way people used to do this. So this is the way people used to do it 5 or 6 years ago before the spunding valve days were a thing. But I did brew a double IPA one time and the krausen came through everywhere and it scared the shit out of me and I just never decided to do it again. But this is what it looked like. It's always been on ball lock corny kegs. I've never even had a pin lock. It's just a ball lock with the lid on, with the gas disconnect connected to the keg, connected to a sanitized hose. Any hose really, vinyl, silicone, gas line, didn't matter as long as it fits. And then into a jar of Star San. Yes, this is fermenting in a keg, but this is not under pressure. Back in the day, the idea of fermenting in a corny keg just seemed dangerous. Like you really had to know what you were doing or else this could happen. But as time goes on, you learn stuff, like how corny kegs can hold up to 130 PSI, which is insanely high compared to pretty much any other fermenter, commercial fermenters included. You learn about anti-foam agents like FermCap. You learn you're gonna need more headspace when you're doing high ABV beers, so maybe upgrade to a 6-gallon torpedo keg, or even better, something like this. $200 is still light years cheaper than the new stuff on the market. But most importantly, I didn't know what a spunding valve was, and the spunding valve is the key to the city, so let's talk about it. A spunding valve is a pressure release valve that we can regulate. See, on your CO2 tank, you have a regulator that controls how much goes into a keg or a fermenter, but a spunding valve is the opposite. It controls how much gas or pressure comes out. Say you set it to 10 PSI, and when the fermenter has over 10 PSI in it, it just releases it and you hear a whistling or a hissing sound. Until it gets to that desired pressure. We want to have pressure, but too much pressure can be toxic for the yeast. So a good rule of thumb is just to have it set to no more than 15 PSI. You know what? Just keep it right around 10 PSI for safe measure. You're not going to damage a corny keg that has a max capacity of 130 PSI, but most fermenters are rated up to the high 20s, high 30 PSI, so you always want to have a spunding valve on a vessel that's fermenting under pressure. And I don't know why corny kegs are so much stronger than anything else, but we will bring it up on the Hoppy Hour this week. That's a different channel and a live stream with a chat, and we get blacked out and talk about beer for 3 hours. I'll see you there. All right, but what to buy? I talked to David Heath and had a lot of questions after watching his video where he had 3 different spunding valves and he recommended the blow tie valve. These are actually pretty hard to come by. If you want an in-depth look on the engineering of spunding valves, then I highly recommend checking out David Heath's channel where he's got 2 videos on the subject. Amazon was sold out, so I got mine off More Beer and it was about $45 after tax and shipping. But you might not want to need to drop the $45 because you might already have some or most of the parts floating around your brew house. It's essentially 4 components that make up a spunding valve. And if you're going to build one yourself, first and foremost, you got to make sure they're all the same sizes. And more often than not, they're gonna be a 1/4 inch. And I'll have a link to all these parts in the description. You're gonna need a 1/4 inch PSI gauge. Make sure it goes up to no more than 40 or 50 PSI, because if you have a gauge that goes up to 160 or 200, it's gonna be very difficult to read. This one here goes up to 30 PSI. It's like 9 or 10 bucks. You're gonna need a gas disconnect, and you definitely already have this, and a 1/4 inch adapter. Then we're gonna have this bar stock tee that connects everything together. And last, and most importantly, you wanna have the adjustable pressure release valve. Assembling this is as easy as your ABCs. I recommend using Teflon tape and tightening with a small wrench, and here it is. And again, if you already have 1 or 2 of these parts, then I recommend just building your own. Then just regulate it. Fill up your corny keg with 20 or 30 PSI, then adjust the valves to 10 PSI. That's it. That's a spunding valve. All right, let's go. Now there's a few ways to do this, but this is the most efficient way. We are using 2 corny kegs today. We're back on that corny buddy system. One of these tanks we will ferment in, and one of these tanks we will be serving in. Okay, first things first, cut 1.5 inches off your dip tube. This is old footage, so I don't have to do this again. This was when I was 230 pounds, the heavyweight champion of my garage. These rigid pipe cutters are legitness. We were cutting the dip tube to leave behind all the yeast, trub, and anything else you do not want in your beer. You could do it all in one keg, but you'd have to drink the beer really fast. I mean, I don't want my homebrew sitting in all this yeast and trub for too long. Now you're just using it as a fermenter. You could use a blow-off tube and just connect the spunding valve on when fermentation slows down, but David Heath told me to keep the spunding valve on the whole time from the beginning. This will preserve hop aroma, and it will keep the krausen from going AWOL. Thank you for the tip, David. Now just ferment at room temperature with the spunding valve on between 10 to 15 PSI, and now you can ferment lager strains like White Labs 925. This yeast strain is on my hit list. A lot of lager yeasts are. As far as pulling a gravity reading, just connect it to your Keg Raiders beer line, or any beer faucet for that matter. Once you hit your final gravity, cold crash. Remove the spunding valve and connect it to your CO2 tank and give it any pressure. 5 PSI or 1 PSI. I know we're not using an airlock, but reverse vacuum pressure is still a reality. Give it a day and then break out your serving keg. Make sure it's obviously clean and sanitized, and this is where you would want to add your gelatin or your biofine or fruit or vanilla beans or dry hopping. I made a video last month using sous vide food grade magnets on a dry hopping hack that doesn't allow oxygen in. You can do it here as well. You can even double up with 2 sets of magnets if you're doing maybe a 5-day dry hop and a 10-day dry hop on the same batch. Close up your serving keg and purge it a few times to clear the oxygen, and then you're ready to go. And here's how it works. Connect your CO2 tank to the corny keg that you fermented in. Now you need a beer line with 2 beer disconnects, aka a jumper cable that connects to both corny keg beer posts. Now put your spunding valve on your serving tank to avoid any overcarbonation. And that's it. Connect it and it's good to go. Turn on your tank to 5 PSI and transfer everything over, leaving the yeast and shrub behind. Refrigerate it and you're ready to start drinking with friends. All right guys, thank you for watching this week's video. Shout out to these barrage lords for supporting Homebrew for Life awareness. And as always, cheers to eating good